Welcome to Lesson 8, Part C of Youth by Isaac Asimov. Today's learning intention is to learn about characterization and to learn about narrative structure. We know we will be successful if we can explain what characterization is, we can give evidence that a character has developed in the story, and we can show understanding of how stories are structured and what effect that has on the reader. So let's get started today with our first question, which is, what is characterization? So, we're having a little think about characterization. How are the characters created in this story, and how do we know what they're like? In previous tasks, I've asked you to write down everything we know about Red and exactly what his personality is like and give quotations, and you were able to do that really easily. So now today we're going to think about how are characters different from one another? How are they created differently, and how is that put across? How is that communicated through the language of the text? When we think about films and television, there's thousands of different characters that we interact with all the time, and they're all incredibly different from one another. And that's put across through a variety of different ways, through the way they're designed, through the way they talk, move, behave, and it's the same in the kind of text we're looking at in English. So I want you to have another think and a look back at the pictures you drew of Red and Slim a long while ago, and have a think about the way they were and are. What is it that tells you that Red is more confident than Slim? What is it that tells you that Slim is more thoughtful or more perhaps intelligent than Red? So I want you to quickly just pause the video and have a look at those notes that you made previously. Okay, now I want to have a little bit of a think about character development, which is very similar to characterization. Character development is when characters change throughout a story, and I think it's pretty obvious from our story that Slim is changing quite a lot as we move along. He's becoming a little bit more brave, he's willing to talk back, he told Red to shut up at one point, which is kind of interesting. And characters often in stories change as you move through the story. They develop, they become more confident, or they learn. So now I want you to have a think and explain which characters have changed and how so far, giving quotations to prove. This might mean digging back through previous chapters to find evidence that Red was more one way than he is now and that he's changed a lot. But I want you to dig through, find quotations for each, and go through explaining which characters have changed and how much and how. So pause the video and have a think about that now. Okay, so we've learned about characterization, and now we have to have a little think about narrative structure. So, first question, what is narrative structure? So, narrative is a story, and structure is obviously the way things are set out. When we think about narrative structure, there's a line drawing that we look at that looks like this. We might be very, very familiar with graphs that look like this at the moment, but I promise it's got nothing to do with that. So we've got exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and denouement. Now, people call these things by different names all the time. Generally, we get the climax is always called the climax, but everything else people tend to have their own sort of special names for some reason. I don't know why that is, but it just seems to be the case. But the shape is always roughly the same. People draw it in slightly different ways and in different angles, but it's always roughly the same. You've got this idea that at the start of a story there's not much going on and it's all quite simple, and then the tension, the action, the interest, the excitement builds up and up and up until something very, very exciting happens, which is the climax, and then after that things start to calm down again. So what I'd like you to do now is just draw this line. It's just getting the idea of the shape of a narrative structure at the moment that I'm looking for. So I want you to just draw this line on a piece of paper, it could be in your jotter or anywhere else, and use this as a basis. I've got one here that's very brightly coloured and lovely. So you've got your exposition, which is in the beginning, then you get the conflict starting to come in, then you've got rising action, climax, falling action, and our resolution at the end. I want you to just draw the shape of this, and then I'm going to give you some basic plot details from our story, and I want you to put them on where you think they fit on this line. Right, from the least exciting to sort of the most exciting points. So once you've got that drawn, we've got our 4 plot points here. The children have alien creatures in a cage. The adults are looking for the aliens. The kids are going to kill the aliens to cover up what they've done. The adults find the aliens before the kids do this. So where does that fit in terms of conflict, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution, exposition. Where do those 4 things fit on that line that you have drawn? So pause the video and put those 4 things on that line, please. Okay, so we still have 4 chapters left of this story, so it's time for a little bit of a prediction now. What I'd like you to do is write down what you think will happen in the last 4 chapters. We've seen from that narrative structure that this fits pretty well with a typical narrative structure of a sort of 3-act story. We've got the setup, we've got the rising action, we've got the climax, and we have a resolution. The things are okay now. We know that it's not going to turn out as bad as we thought it might. So we've definitely had some sort of resolution. So how are there 4 chapters left? What's going to happen? What I want you to do is just write down your prediction for that now, please. Okay, so we have come to the end of the lesson. We have learned about characterization, we have learned about narrative structure, and we know we have been successful because we've been able to explain what characterization is. We've given evidence that a character has developed in the story, and we've provided quotations to prove that. We've shown an understanding of how stories are structured and what effect that has on the reader. Finally, we're at the end of the lesson. So have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!